There's an increasing chorus. Calls for the end of gun violence are reverberating across America. But is that the case here in South Bend? ABC57 morning anchor Rich Bodee did some digging to find out what's really going on in South Bend's high crime neighborhoods.
For companies, we're at 21226 Huey Street. This is going to be for a shooting. You are clear to make the scene direct. We have one victim at this time, shot to the chest.
4:30, I just had 4 shots fired to the east of me, Oliver Bertrand.
Receiving shot spotter notification, 1046 North Huey Street, showing 4 rounds.
I've got multiple shot spotters, 813, 842 Huey for multiple rounds.
It happens daily, especially once it starts getting warm. It's crazy over here. Sometimes it's hourly.
There is no such thing as I guess it's okay when a bullet leaves a barrel of a gun.
It says everything west of the river is pretty bad, is what it says.
We do need community heroes to step up and give information.
Welcome to South Bend, a version you may not have seen before. Last year, residents picked up their phones and called South Bend police 769 times to report shots fired.
As a disclaimer, some people will call in. It could be fireworks, car backfiring, somebody dropping a pallet from a warehouse, things of that nature. And we would rather have that. We would rather have people call in, even if they're not sure.
We obtained this data through a public records request and created our very own heat map of all the shots fired calls in South Bend in 2021. While the list shows dates, times, and addresses, that doesn't mean police actually found evidence of shots fired on these blocks.
In 2021, there were 34 instances of shots fired calls right here on Huey Street, from the 400 block to the 1600 block. So we walked up and down to talk to residents about what they've heard and seen.
I've literally been sitting here on my steps, and a friend of mine almost got shot in the head because the bullet went into the house next door.
This woman, who was the only person out of the dozens we spoke to who agreed to talk to us on camera, asked to have her face blurred. She's lived in this Huey Street neighborhood for 20 years. She blames landlords for turning her once quiet block into a tiring nightmare and says she's moving out.
There was one woman down the street that got hit in the head with a damn stray bullet, or meant for her, I don't know, and then her damn family walking up and down the street with damn assault rifles.
But this woman, like so many others I spoke to, won't call police.
Why would I? I mean, it ain't gonna do any good. They're just gonna run through here real quick because the police don't want to be over here either.
South Bend District 2 Councilman Henry Davis Jr., a lifelong resident of the city, says that's not the only reason his constituents and friends don't call the cops.
So you're going to have people that are in fear of their lives, and quite naturally, I'll be in fear of my life as well if somebody shot 40 shots inside of my home. So yeah, I understand that. I also understand those who are like used to this type of crime and this type of environment as well.
We gave South Bend Mayor James Mueller and South Bend Police Chief Scott Ruskowski our heat map. Neither were surprised by the locations the calls were mostly coming from.
It's not surprising given a lot of the individuals we know and the affiliations we know who are responsible for the vast majority of violence. That's where they live.
Evidence has been recovered primarily from your red and your yellow areas that you have on the map.
We also showed the map to Councilman Davis Jr. He says it proves there's been a lack of resources west of the St. Joe River.
Obviously, this is an illustration of why it deserves investment and support from the local government.
He says the northwest corner by the South Bend International Airport had the highest foreclosure rate during the 2008 recession. Now, it's become the most violent. We went back out several times to survey those neighborhoods, and upon closer look, found something alarming.
Now up and down this block, which is the 1300 block of Huey, everywhere you look, in pretty much all of the houses on both sides of the street, you can see bullet holes. In some houses, they've peppered the house more than one time. In one house, we saw as many as 7. And then one owner showed us this, bullet holes that go back 2 years in this tree. You can still see them here. This one was a .45 caliber slug he had to dig out.
Mayor Mueller says his office is committed to stopping the violence, but getting there is about more than just investing in the West Side.
You know, a lot of the things we're doing, both long-term and short-term, are designed to have opportunity and safe neighborhoods across the city. So that's the commitment. You know, how to get there. We do need the community to work with us on this. I mean, there is, as we've talked about, the community also knows who is responsible for a lot of the violence.
And Chief Ruskowski has a message for residents like the woman on Huey who don't want to talk to officers.
Talk to somebody else who will. We don't have to have a name.
But the woman tells us police presence makes all the difference, and the time of day is especially important.
If they're going to come out here and they're going to sit in this neighborhood and tell us about how it's a high crime area, then sit out here when stuff is going on. Don't bring your police cars and sit in a damn parking lot across the street from me and sit there from 7 a.m. to 3:30 in the afternoon, because the hood is asleep at 7 to 3:30. The hood don't wake up until 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, and they don't quit shooting and acting a damn fool until 5 o'clock in the damn morning. Come at those times. Don't sit there when ain't going on. You ain't solving nothing. You're sitting there wasting all of our time. That's all you're doing.
According to the data of all the shots fired calls on Huey Street in 2021, just 2 came between 7 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. Chief Ruskowski says his department does use other data from shot spotters to track the most violent neighborhoods.
We put our officers in mission areas, meaning probable dates, times, days of the week that the officers will be in for X amount of time to make their presence at the bare minimum known in these areas, and try to, again, at the bare minimum, deter these things from happening.
ShotSpotter, a gunshot detection system, is a technology that triangulates a position about 10 to 12 feet from where a gun went off. It allows police to get alerts sent straight to their phones, most times before a shots fired call even comes into dispatch. Chief Ruskowski and Mayor Mueller say it's an invaluable tool, Ruskowski even providing a recent example.
Somebody was out in the street firing an AK-47, and the officer turned the corner, and he still had the gun in his hand. It just got done with his last round that he had fired.
Residents I spoke with also mentioned seeing and hearing assault rifles fire, something Ruskowski says he's not surprised by.
We do have rifles, AK-47s, SKSs, AR-15s, but not near the amount as we do with handguns.
The chief adds many guns are modified to make them fully automatic to fire even more rounds. In an ABC57 public records request we found from 2017 to 2021, the number of guns South Bend police have taken off the streets has increased every year. Chief Ruskowski says a special unit tasked with getting guns off the streets has stepped it up recently. But tracking where these guns come from is a painstaking process.
Off the street market, they'll use Craigslist, they'll use Facebook, they'll use all these other apps to go ahead and meet up and do this, or just quite frankly, meet up at a gas station and make the exchange there. Here's $100 and here's a gun.
In Indiana, buying a gun doesn't require a receipt or bill of sale. Chief Ruskowski says he's worried the new permitless carry legislation, which was signed by Governor Eric Holcomb in March and takes effect July 1st, could lead to more shots fired calls. Mayor Mueller agrees.
We heard some misguided arguments that, well, the criminals or the violent offenders they're not going to follow the permit, they're going to carry the weapon anyway. But that's the whole point of any law, is you have the law and then law enforcement is able to enforce it. So taking that tool away from law enforcement is going to complicate our ability to get violent offenders off the streets.
But Councilman Davis Jr. says it's not about the law at all. He says these areas with high shots fired calls on our map are not, nor have they ever been, the result of gun legislation.
It's better schools, it's grocery stores and food deserts. We have to start investing into our areas to solve this type of issue.
But no matter the cause of increased shots fired in South Bend, the effects can be traumatic. Right now, Chief Ruskowski says some kids in South Bend sleep in the bathtub to be somewhat safe from a stray bullet, just trying to survive.
Imagine if you had to live like that. Imagine there are people who are living like that. And since it's not us, I guess it doesn't affect us. That's what the mentality seems to be. But it is affecting people.
A mentality the woman on Huey Street says is alive and well.
Because if it's not their family, they're not going to call. It's the whole, we didn't hear it, we didn't see it, we don't know about it.
And at the end of the day, it's that deeply rooted belief so many hold on to in South Bend, despite the terror on their block.
In mid-April, the Biden administration announced new rules to crack down on ghost guns, which are unserialized and often untraceable homemade weapons. According to the ATF, in 2021, there were 20,000 ghost guns recovered across the country, a 10-fold increase in just 6 years. We asked South Bend Police how many of the 603 guns that it recovered from last year were ghost guns, but we were told that ghost guns are not tracked by South Bend Police as a separate entity.